The chamber erupted into chaos as the obelisk's light pulsed in waves, sending vibrations through the air that rattled Alyssa's visor. The holographic map above the obelisk continued to display blinking red stars, their number growing rapidly. Beneath it, the pods began to emit faint hisses as frost melted from their surfaces. "Lan," Alyssa barked, "shut it down." "I'm trying." Lan scrambled to his equipment, his fingers a blur over the controls. "But this system, Commander, it's not responding like anything I've seen before. It's like it's rewriting itself faster than I can intervene." "Carter," Alyssa snapped, "if Lan can't stop it, can you?" Carter examined the obelisk, his demolition kit slung over his shoulder. Blowing it might make things worse. For all we know, it could trigger a self-defense mechanism, or worse, detonate the damn thing. A low hiss drew their attention. One of the pods had fully opened, revealing its occupant. The humanoid figure, now awake, its eyes glowing with the same ethereal blue light as the obelisk. It stepped out slowly, its movements unnervingly fluid, its gaze locking onto Alyssa. "Identify yourself," Alyssa demanded, leveling her weapon at the figure. The rest of the team followed suit, their weapons aimed but trembling slightly. The being tilted its head, studying her with an expression that was almost curious. When it spoke, its voice was a harmonic blend of tones, resonating as though multiple voices spoke in unison. "You are different, unfinished, an anomaly. Who or what are you?" Alyssa pressed, her finger hovering over the trigger. "I am the Architect," it replied, stepping closer. "One of many who guided the Genesis Directive. You are the inheritors of our design, though flawed, fragmented." It gestured toward the obelisk. "This is the culmination, the restoration of balance." "Balance?" Alyssa echoed, her heart pounding. "You're targeting entire star systems. That's not balance, it's annihilation." The Architect's expression shifted, a faint smile touching its lips. "You misunderstand. The directive is not destruction, it is renewal. The broken systems, the unworthy species, they will be remade, perfected." "That's not your call to make," Alyssa said, her voice rising. "We don't need your perfection. We've survived just fine without it." "Survived," the Architect repeated, its tone almost pitying. "You misunderstand your own purpose. You are not meant to survive. You are meant to ascend." The obelisk pulsed again, and more pods began to open. Figures stepped out identical to the first, tall, luminous, and impossibly serene. The chamber filled with the soft hum of their presence, an unsettling harmony that set Alyssa's teeth on edge. "Commander," Lan called out, his voice tight with fear. "The energy readings, they're spreading beyond the obelisk. If this continues, it could trigger a chain reaction across the planet." "Enough of this," Alyssa snapped. She turned to Carter. "Blow it now." Carter hesitated, glancing at the obelisk. "Commander, if this thing is connected to their network, do it," Alyssa ordered, her voice brooking no argument. Carter moved quickly, planting explosive charges around the base of the obelisk. The Architects watched silently, their expressions unreadable, as though they were observing an experiment unfold. "You cannot stop the directive," the lead Architect said, its voice calm despite the tension in the room. "Your resistance is irrelevant." "Maybe," Alyssa said, her gaze hard, "but I'll be damned if I let you decide the fate of my people." The charges were set. Carter retreated, his hand hovering over the detonator. "Ready when you are, Commander." "Now," Alyssa shouted. Carter hit the trigger. The chamber shook violently as the charges detonated, flames and debris engulfing the obelisk. The holographic map flickered, the red stars winking out one by one. The Architects staggered, their glowing eyes dimming as the pulse of the obelisk ceased. For a brief moment, silence reigned. Then, a deep, resonant sound began to rise, a low, guttural hum that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the chamber. "What's happening?" Tessa shouted, her voice barely audible over the noise. "The system's collapsing," Lan yelled. "We need to get out of here now." Alyssa turned to the Architect, who remained standing amidst the chaos, its eyes fixed on her. "This isn't over," it said, its voice echoing ominously. "You cannot destroy what you do not understand." "We'll see about that," Alyssa shot back. "Move out, back to the Vanguard, now." The team sprinted toward the exit as the chamber began to collapse. The glow of the obelisk faded, replaced by the blinding light of an implosion building at its core. Alyssa pushed her team forward, her own breath ragged as they reached the open air. Behind them, the structure caved in, a massive shockwave rippling across the icy landscape. The Vanguard was waiting, engines roaring as they scrambled aboard. The moment the hatch sealed, Lieutenant Rahl gunned the engines, lifting the craft into the sky. As Kaidos grew smaller below them, Alyssa sank into her seat, her heart pounding. She stared at the view, her mind racing with questions. What had they unleashed? And what did the architects mean by ascension? "Commander," Lan said, breaking her thoughts. "The obelisk is gone, but the energy signatures, there are more, scattered across multiple systems." Alyssa nodded grimly. "Then we've got work to do." The Vanguard hurtled through hyperspace, its engines thrumming with relentless urgency. The crew was silent, the weight of what they had encountered on Kaidos pressing heavily on their minds. Alyssa sat at the central console, her gaze fixed on the holographic star map projected above her. Each flickering red dot represented another architect obelisk, another piece of a puzzle that threatened the entire galaxy. "We're approaching the next coordinates, Commander," Lieutenant Rahl announced. "A system designated Xiphon 7. Reports from old exploratory logs indicate the planet is lush, with signs of abandoned settlements." Alyssa leaned forward, her voice sharp. "What about the obelisk?" "Scans are picking up a massive structure near the equator," Lan interjected. "Energy readings are similar to Kaidos, but stronger. It's like the network is amplifying itself." "Stronger how?" Carter asked, his brow furrowed. "It's not just output," Lan replied, his voice tinged with unease. "It's sending signals. Whatever's on Xiphon 7 isn't dormant. It's active." Alyssa nodded, her jaw tightening. "Prepare for descent. We'll go in fast and quiet. I want eyes on that obelisk before we make any moves." As the Vanguard broke through Xiphon 7's atmosphere, the crew was struck by the stark contrast to Kaidos. Where the frozen wastelands of the last planet had been desolate and forbidding, Xiphon 7 was vibrant and teeming with life. Towering trees with iridescent leaves stretched skyward, their canopies alive with the sound of alien wildlife. Rivers wound through emerald valleys, their waters shimmering with bioluminescent hues. But amidst the beauty there was an undeniable sense of foreboding. The obelisk stood in stark defiance of its surroundings, a towering black spire at the heart of the jungle. It pulsed with rhythmic light, its glow seeping into the air like an eerie heartbeat. "Touchdown in 3 minutes," Rahl reported. "Landing zone is half a click from the obelisk." Alyssa checked her weapon and secured her helmet. "Same protocol as Kaidos. We're in and out, keep chatter minimal and stay alert." The team disembarked, their boots crunching against the dense undergrowth. The jungle was humid, the air heavy with the scent of unfamiliar vegetation. Despite the vibrant surroundings, the silence from the obelisk was unnerving. As they approached, the structure's details became clear. Unlike the pristine edges of the one on Kaidos, this obelisk bore signs of wear, long grooves etched into its surface as if it had been scarred by some great force. Yet the light within pulsed steadily, its intensity undiminished. "Lan," Alyssa said, gesturing toward the obelisk. "Get me a scan." Lan crouched near the base, his scanner emitting a faint hum. His expression darkened as data flooded the screen. "Commander, this isn't just an obelisk. It's a conduit, a relay point for something much larger." "Define much larger," Alyssa demanded. Before Lan could respond, the ground trembled beneath their feet. The pulse of the obelisk quickened, and a low mechanical drone filled the air. From the jungle, figures emerged, sleek humanoid constructs with glowing blue cores. Their movements were precise, almost graceful as they encircled the team. "Hold positions," Alyssa barked, raising her weapon. One of the constructs stepped forward, its voice a chilling blend of synthetic tones. "You should not be here." Alyssa aimed squarely at the figure. "We're here to stop whatever it is you're planning." The construct tilted its head, its glowing core brightening. "You misunderstand. The directive is not a plan, it is a certainty. You cannot halt the inevitable." Carter scoffed, his finger brushing the trigger. "Watch us." The construct's core flared, and the surrounding units moved in unison. Alyssa shouted, "Engage!" The jungle exploded into chaos as the team opened fire. The constructs moved with inhuman speed, their glowing cores making them difficult targets. Alyssa dodged a swipe from a construct's blade, countering with a well-placed shot that shattered its core. It collapsed instantly, its form disintegrating into fine ash. "Lan," she shouted over the din, "what's the status of the obelisk?" Lan ducked behind cover, his scanner flashing erratically. "It's drawing power from the jungle. Every time we take one of these things down, it siphons the energy to reinforce the others." "Then we cut off the source," Alyssa said, her mind racing. "Carter, can we rig charges on the obelisk?" "I can try," Carter replied, weaving through the chaos to reach the base. "But these constructs aren't going to give me much time." "Tessa, cover him," Alyssa ordered. The team worked in tandem, their movements fluid despite the relentless assault. Tessa and Alyssa held off the constructs while Carter planted the charges. The obelisk's glow intensified, and the air grew thick with static energy. "Charges set," Carter called, retreating from the base. "Ready to blow on your command." Alyssa hesitated for a fraction of a second, her gaze flicking to the obelisk. The red stars in the holographic map on Kaidos had been a warning. If this obelisk was connected to the others, destroying it could trigger unforeseen consequences. But hesitation was a luxury she couldn't afford. "Do it," she ordered. Carter hit the detonator. The charges erupted in a blinding explosion, the obelisk splitting down the center. The constructs froze mid-movement, their glowing cores dimming as they collapsed to the ground. But instead of silence, a low rumble filled the air. From the shattered obelisk, a massive wave of energy surged upward, piercing the clouds and disappearing into the sky. The jungle fell eerily quiet, the vibrant colors dimming as though life itself was retreating. "What the hell just happened?" Tessa asked, her voice trembling. Lan's scanner beeped, drawing his attention. His face paled. "Commander, that wasn't just an explosion. It sent a signal." "To where?" Alyssa demanded. Lan turned the scanner toward her, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every obelisk in the network.